Yo, welcome back to Yev's Builds. If you don't remember last episode, we were trying to fit the V10 in, and I cut you guys off on a really exciting note, I guess, but in all reality, it didn't actually fit. The engine didn't fit simply because of these engine mount brackets right here. They're poking out just a little bit too much, so what I'm gonna do is actually shave this down right here. Eventually, I'll weld up this somewhere else on the engine mount bracket. Same on this side, shave this off, cut off maybe 3/4 of an inch or so, and then we're gonna test fit this boy again. Unfortunately, the valve covers have a little bit of scratching now because of this entire piece right here. I actually bent it all up just so I could try to fit it in, which is fine because I think we're gonna cut this off anyway and make some custom stuff. Yeah, this is an interesting process, man, but not the end of the world because I might be changing the color of these anyway. We'll see which color I decide the M3 to be, but for now, yeah, let's go ahead and shave these down and test fit this again. What we did was we actually removed the brake booster and the DSC traction control thing right over here. The reason why I did that, because we couldn't fit the engine in without the valve cover touching this actual wall right here. So in my opinion, I'm gonna get rid of this entire wall. I already kind of pried it off. These tack welds over here are already done. I just need to cut it off, and then that will give me much more room to work with. If anything, I'll make a little protective shield later, but for now, let's just cut it off. Dude, my golly, dog, this is so amazing. It's chilling, guys. It's chilling on its own way. I trimmed this piece right here on the engine mount bracket, as well as that side, because it just didn't clear while we were putting it in. But also the fact that I got this wall off, right? We removed this wall, it made it so much easier and more smooth to get in. Obviously now we're gonna put everything back on and see how it's gonna fit otherwise, but dude, so far, my goodness, this is looking so pretty. This really feels good, man. What do you think?
It's good.
Wow. So of course the steering rack, I removed that as well just because, you know, for test fitting purposes, but it looks like it might be fine. The steering column to the rack might be fine. I'll definitely hook this all up, but just by looking at this clearance right here, that's a lot. That is a lot. And looking from the back, where the transmission is going to be, you can't really tell, but it's a little bit on the high side. So my thoughts, since these engine mounts are actually adjustable, you could, you know, just shave off however much I need, angle it correctly, lower the entire engine just a little bit. That way I get more center gravity, and clearance-wise, I mean, we'll see. We'll just go with the flow. But dude, so far, my goodness. Cool, the engine fits. But does the rest of the stuff fit? Will the headers fit? My guess, maybe not so easily, because from what I'm seeing now, the transmission is most likely not gonna fit. It kind of bolts up right here, the starter goes through here. Regardless, for me to test fit anything else, I have to pull the engine out again, because as you can see, this piece right here, for where the steering rack goes, if you twist the wheel, it already rubs on the engine mount. So my plan of execution is quite simple. I have to get rid of these engine mounts and build some. For the engine to be sturdy, these were made aluminum, but also they were big because of that reason. Sure, they're lighter, but they have to be much bigger. So what I'm thinking of doing is taking a steel plate, drilling some holes in, measuring everything out, taking another steel plate, welding it up to this exact angle right here. That way, I could reinforce a little bit over here, but because of steel, it's already gonna be more stronger. And I can also get extra space right here for the steering rack and everything else. Because the plan is, I'm assuming the engine has to go down just a little bit more. As you can see, I have plenty of room here. The steering rack is going to be difficult. I already put it in. It just does not rotate all the way. And with these brake lines, I'm going to have to relocate them as well, or make some other ones or something. But these headers, my guess, are not going to fit too well. So let's pull the engine out again and put the headers on and see. Tell you what, I'm getting pretty good at doing this alone. Not bad, not bad. In case you don't know, this is my very first engine swap, so give me some slack. Yes, I decided to do a V10 as my first engine swap. Originally, I made the mistake mistake of selling my original headers off this V10 because the plan was and is to go long tubed and do all this stuff, right? The headers I'm looking at are discontinued, unfortunately, so I made the mistake of selling these, and one of you guys, Eric, shout out to you, appreciate you, you've been parting out an engine, and you hooked me up with these OEM headers. I figured I'd get these again just so I could test fit everything. If these bulky stock headers fit into this shell, anything else will fit. So that is the plan. We're gonna be test fitting everything again, putting these headers back on, putting this engine back in. Dude, I'm telling you, this thing is gonna be coming in and out plenty more times, so bear with me. Yeah, man, so as you can see, there's absolutely no way it's gonna fit with these headers. I think my next plan now is to actually get this engine out of here, gut as much as I possibly can, because to be honest, these brake lines right here, they're kind of in the way. If you can't see, that header piece is just sticking out way too much. I'm just gonna gut as much of it as possible and then attempt to stick this engine in with the headers. If I don't put this in with the headers, to be honest, I have no idea how I'm gonna stick this in later. As I'm laying here under the shell, I think the next logical step is for me to attach the transmission onto the actual engine. Therefore, I need to fit it in to see exactly where the engine is going to be sitting. My thinking for this is in the transmission tunnel, where the shifter should be, it is blocked off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the transmission that I have for the V10, attach it to the engine, put the shifter on, and stick it through the shifter hole, right? That is gonna be my gauging point. That's what I'm gonna base off the entire thing of where it's gonna be sitting and where the engine's gonna be sitting off of this hole right here. For some reason, the SMG's, this piece is covered off and blocked off. We're gonna have to cut this off and try to stick the transmission and the shifter through this hole. So check this out. I was able to take a little razor and just kind of slide underneath this layer of rubber, whatever this is, some insulation. I was able to get most of it off. What I'm thinking now is I'm gonna take an angle grinder. I'm going to cut this weld right here. I'm gonna cut that weld right there and drill out these tack welds right here. After all this is cut off and everything, I'm probably gonna be able to push it out and punch it out. There we go. Not the prettiest, clearly not the prettiest. This was an accident, but you know, it is what it is. Let's test the transmission then. Well, here we have it, an E92 M3 6-speed manual. This, I got it along with the engine. I didn't do anything to it besides clean it up because it was completely filthy. Before I stick it onto the actual V10, I'm gonna test fit the transmission alone just to see that it clears everything up in the transmission tunnel. Got the shifter hooked up to it. I will see if everything matches up and go from there, dude. Here I have a stock E46 M3 transmission mount. Just by looking at this, the holes really clear. They match and they go all the way through where they're supposed to. You can see right there, the holes match up, so that's a good sign. Now the trick is to see if these holes are gonna bolt up to where they're supposed to be originally in the chassis. So yeah, this is quite interesting. Let's get it. Transmission absolutely fits flawlessly. Clears everything up in the tunnel. Nothing touches anything. That's a good sign. The shifter, it can probably scooch a little bit back, just a little bit more. It's not directly in the center. It's a little bit more close up. But just with this being right there, we can see that first of all, the engine is going to be definitely sitting a lot lower than it is. These engine mounts are going to have to be different. I'm probably going to get some LS ones instead. That way I could buy them anywhere and for cheap. But for now, look at this. The distance from the flywheel housing to the subframe is roughly 13 or so inches. This lower section of the oil pan, the one's going to be closer to the rear, you can see that the end of it and this end is roughly about 13 inches or so. So what this tells me is that Chris, the guy who sold me this already modified subframe, they measured out pretty accurately, and that's pretty good stuff right here. We can see that the transmission clears everything very well. That's good. That's a good sign. The area for the stock transmission mount for the E46 where it mounts, these are the two screws, right? As you can see, for the E92, they're a little bit more further back. So that's where it should be sitting, right there. Maybe I could just have something welded onto like right about here, perhaps? Or take the same transmission mount and add on more plates further back so I could bolt on these pieces right here to the actual plate, right? Not too sure yet, but we'll see. Another thing I've noticed, the manual E46 M3s have a little notch right here for this piece to slide into. It's like a sleeve almost, right? This one, since it's an SMG, or was a former SMG, doesn't have that. In order for this to hold, I'm gonna need to have something thought out, but at least I got the rubber boot already. That's cool. Anyway, yeah, it clears nevertheless. It clears very well. All right, man, we got the transmission on. It's all bolted up and ready to go. We dropped the front subframe off just so we could fit all this assembly in. Once it's in, we're gonna try to put that subframe back on and see how everything fits together. So yeah, man, the engine fits with the transmission. Everything's good. Sitting on the subframe under its own weight. We got good clearance. Oil pan is clearing the subframe. There's enough room in the back. There we go. Look at that. Plenty of room. Chris, again, thank you for the subframe. Made my job a lot easier. Clearly, we still have plenty of work with the steering shaft headers. We gotta make those fit. These brake lines, we gotta relocate them or something, because since this is a pre-facelift shell, all these brake lines lead into this corner. I do not like that because it takes up a whole bunch of room, but dude, firewall space clearance is pretty good. It's close, but it's good. Transmission, you can see it right there. All of the clearances are good, and the only thing I'm gonna have to mess around with still is this shifter mechanism, right? Everything. It's a little bit too far back, which is no problem. We'll just cut some of those arms up, weld them up together, make them shorter, closer together. That way it sits where it needs to be, as well as the transmission mount, obviously, because you can see that this is the E92 transmission mount placement, right? This is where the bushings go, but the E46 are right over here. They're way closer up front. So we're gonna take this bracket off, modify it some way or another, and we'll figure it out. My boy Daniel hopefully can help me out, and we'll go from there. But dude, this is looking spicy. This is looking real good. Everything fits, nothing really touches. Clearances are pretty good everywhere. I'm stoked. I'm really stoked. That's gonna do it for this one, man. Everything fits, the transmission fits the tunnel, the engine fits, it all sits good. Gotta make the engine mounts and transmission mount next. That's gonna be in the next video. Appreciate you. Peace.